Stick It, Episode 23-24. Stand up for stand up to, when to speak and when to let it go. You know that moment when something unfair happens, in a meeting, in a conversation, at a family lunch, and you have about 3 seconds to decide whether to say something or let it go. And whatever you choose, you replay it for days afterward? Yeah, today we have 2 phrasal verbs for exactly that moment, and they sound almost identical, but they're not. Let me share with you a personal story. 2 situations, same week, very different verbs. Situation 1. A colleague presented a project in a meeting. Good project, her work, her ideas, her months of research, and then, midway through, someone interrupted and started explaining her own project back to her, slightly differently, as if improving it. She went quiet. The room let it happen. I stood up for her. After the meeting, I said to the room, that was Elena's project and those were her ideas. Not dramatic, not a confrontation, just a clear statement that someone's work deserved to be credited correctly. Situation 2. Same week. My school had introduced a new administrative procedure that made absolutely no sense. It added 2 hours of paperwork per week and solved nothing. Every teacher complained privately. Nobody said anything officially. In the next staff meeting, I stood up to the head of department and said directly that the procedure wasn't working and needed to be reconsidered. That was harder. That was standing up to someone with authority. Different energy entirely. Stand up for means to defend someone or something, to speak in support of a person, a principle, or a belief, especially when they're being overlooked or treated unfairly. She always stands up for the people on her team. You have to stand up for what you believe in. Nobody stood up for him when it mattered. Stand up to means to confront someone who has more power, authority, or aggression than you, to refuse to be intimidated, to challenge someone directly. It takes courage to stand up to your boss. She finally stood up to the person who'd been making her life difficult. He's not easy to stand up to, but someone had to. Here's the distinction. Stand up for is about the cause, the person, the idea, the principle. You're defending something. Stand up to is about the power dynamic. You're facing someone bigger, louder, or more powerful and not backing down. Stand up for Elena's work. Stand up to the head of department. The difference is in the direction, toward the cause or toward the person. Let me share another example. Malala Yousafzai stood up for girls' right to education. That's the cause, the principle, the belief. And she stood up to the Taliban. That's the power, the threat, the authority that wanted to silence her. Both phrasal verbs, one person, same act of courage, described from 2 different angles. Most of us are dealing with considerably smaller stakes, but the dynamic is the same. Now it is your turn. Finish these sentences out loud. Say them once, slowly, and repeat them several times. That's why it sticks. Something I always stand up for is, someone I wish I had stood up for is, the hardest person I ever stood up to was. In short, stand up for means defend a person or principle, speak in their support. Stand up to means face someone with power and refuse to be intimidated. Same 2 words, different third word, completely different dynamic. Elena needed someone to stand up for her. The head of department needed someone to stand up to him. Both happened. Both mattered. Next episode, push back and call out. 2 more ways of saying no when something isn't right, and why the difference between them matters more than you'd think. See you there.